So Reminiscence boasts a brilliant cast with Hugh Jackman and Rebecca Ferguson in the lead roles, but is the movie actually any good? Let's discuss. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel Lifestyle Critic. I hope you're having a brilliant day. So in this movie we are going to be reviewing the recently released Reminiscence, which is a science fiction neo-noir thriller movie that really could have been great, but unfortunately it is just unbelievably boring. I mean, it's got a bit of a dystopian future angle to it, but it doesn't lean into it at all. Instead, it focuses on a romantic storyline that you really just cannot get behind as an audience member. I mean, it's got a couple of action sequences here and there. Now, what it does have is a really cool memory transportation device where you can quite literally viscerally transport back into the past and experience the past memories again. But like I said, it just doesn't make enough of this for it to be a really compelling movie, and I'm going to be breaking it all down for you in this movie review. So in this dystopian future, sea levels have risen to such a high level due to climate change that the world is now very bleak and unbearable. To make this more bearable, there is a device that has been created that allows patients to travel back into the past and experience reminiscence, which is reliving their past memories as if they're happening to them right now. Now, there are a couple of catches with this. For example, people are able to observe your memories in a bit of a visual real life format. And also it needs a bit of a meditation guide person to guide the person back through their memories. And you also can't experience something or see details for something that you haven't actually gone through yourself. Now, one day there is a walk-in patient called May, and Nick, the main lead character, then falls in love with May. And then one day May suddenly goes missing and Nick spends the entire movie trying to find this character. Like I said, they really could have made so much more use of this brilliant premise instead of the road that they actually went down. But anyway, for this road that they did go down, there are a couple of action sequences, like I said before, here and there. There are some mysterious twists and turns, and there are some revelations that you find out through this movie as well. But none of them, unfortunately, are that gripping or particularly impressive either. But there are some positives in this movie, so let's talk about them. So from a concept point of view, conceptually, this movie is really interesting. I mean, the traveling back into the past and re-experiencing your memories and some twists and turns happening with this is really cool. And there are some twists that happen in this movie that you really don't see coming. However, from a negatives point of view, like I have mentioned a few times, the love story really is difficult to get behind from an audience point of view, especially as these characters barely know each other, yet the Nick character is willing to sacrifice his entire life to try and find this character and is willing to put himself in true life or death scenarios for this character as well. Also, the narrative in this movie just isn't that compelling. The setting itself isn't that inspiring, and they just ultimately could have done so much more with this movie. But unfortunately, from a storyline point of view, it just does not hold up. So the cast of Reminiscence are actually really great. It's a shame though that their characters and the overall narrative of this movie just isn't that great. So let's go through them one by one. So first up, of course, we have Hugh Jackman, who is playing the main lead character in this movie, Nick. Now, Hugh Jackman, of course, is an incredibly talented actor, and he does do as great of a job as he can do in this movie. He is really believable in his performance, despite the fact that the actual movie is pretty weak. He also is a narrator in this film as well, and he does do a really good job in those neo-noir aspects. It's just a shame that the actual movie just isn't that impressive. Next up, we have Rebecca Ferguson from the Mission Impossible franchise, and this time she is playing the May character. And similarly, her performance is pretty decent. Similarly, she does try to give her role. It's just a shame that she's in a bit of a weak movie as well, and that her character just isn't written that well, and you really can't get behind the romance of the Nick and the May characters. Next up, we have Thandiwe Newton, who is playing Emily, and she is Nick's assistant in this movie, and the two of them used to be in a war together. And as such, Emily has some true badass scenes from an action point of view in this movie, which is really cool. However, her character is definitely here from a supporting capacity. And next up, we have Cliff Curtis, who is playing a character called Cyrus, one of the many bad guys in this movie. However, this character is trying to be really intimidating. However, you don't really feel him being that threatening in this movie, and Hugh Jackman has a pretty wicked scene with this character towards the end of this movie. So like I said, from a cast point of view, they have got some decent actors associated with their project. It's just a shame that the characters and the narrative of this movie just aren't that impressive. So from a visuals point of view, of course this movie is a bit of a neo-noir tale, so it's trying to be really, really edgy and really, really cool and really, really slick and sophisticated. However, it just comes across as being really dark, bleak and gloomy and not that impressive. I mean, the action sequences, some of them are pretty decent, but the rest of them, unfortunately, are pretty forgettable. Now, like I said before, the memory aspects of this movie are really, really cool. I do love traveling back into the past, and there are some really cool twists and turns with this device as well, which incidentally looks very, very similar to a device that you've seen in the X-Men franchise for the Weapon X program. So I absolutely love the scenes where you get to see some similarities between Hugh Jackman using this in this movie and him also popping out of it in the Wolverine movies, which is really, really cool. So from a visuals point of view, while some of them are pretty decent in this movie, unfortunately the overall setting just isn't working that well. So in terms of comparison, because the concept of this movie is about traveling to the past and using memories and using dreams and has a bit of a science fiction thriller aspect to it, it is similar to other movies out there, but they are so much more stronger, better and a lot more enjoyable than Reminiscence is. So for example, you could compare it to Vanilla Sky, to Inception, to Blade Runner, and to Total Recall as well. But like I said, all of those movies are so much stronger than Reminiscence. So overall, I was really, really, really looking forward to watching Reminiscence, as it's got some brilliant actors associated with it, and all of the marketing material really looked really cool. I mean, the line of, there's nothing more addictive than the past, and the fact that you can travel to the past and use memories and all of this sort of stuff, I thought was really, really cool, and I was really looking forward to watching it. However, the plot in the end is just unnecessarily convoluted, and they just ultimately didn't make the most of the premise or the narrative that they had in this movie. And so for all of those reasons, unfortunately, I have to give it a 2.5 out of 10. I'd love to hear from you. What did you think of this movie? Please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.